Greetings. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. Welcome, for we are about to embark upon another book study. This is a completely new book. We've been leading up to it this whole time, as we've gone through the passive poverty and nivriti. We've gone through karma and karma yoga. We've gone through mantra and yantra. And now we enter into this book, Jnana Yoga. So, Jnana Yoga is one of the 8 branches of yoga. Now, most people know of the first branch of yoga, which deals with body postures and poses and movements. But there are actually 7 other branches of yoga that are equally as impactful and life-changing. But see, they address different angles of reality. So the popular path of yoga deals with body postures. Another deals with emotional worship. That's known as bhakti yoga. Another is dealing with working with the mind. So we have Raj yoga and also Jnana yoga. But in specific, Jnana yoga deals with the sharpened logical mind. And that sharpened logical mind leading to an understanding of the union with the whole. So that's what we approach today. Now, there are quite a few books written on Jnana Yoga, but because we're in the stream of the Bihar School of Yoga, we're going to continue with Swami Niranjanananda's book, which is very short and straight to the point, Jnana Yoga. So I hope you guys had time to capture this book. If not, I'm going to read it to you chapter by chapter. So greetings and welcome. Thank you guys for being a part of this. Peace. Naturally natured. Peace. Good to see you. I missed you last night. Stray Panther. Peace, brother. Peace. Alicia M. Peace and greetings. Will Trent. I missed you as well last night. Peace. We Grow Natural. Good evening. Amber D. Peace. Who loves orange soda? I mean, I do. Peace. Serious Suit 888. Peace, brother. MC Maestro. Always good to see you. Higher Understanding. Peace. Sunshine Chick. Greetings. Thank you. Yeah, so Tapas 2017. Very knowledgeable fellow. I have learned a lot from that guy as well. Moby. Good evening. Al Dickey, what's up, my friend? What's up? Marco Power, greetings. ZJ, peace. All right, so yeah, I don't want to hold you up for too long. Let's tap in. As you can see, it's Friday. That represents Venus, the color green, bathed in it. You feel me? Bathed in it. So let's go ahead and get started here. Ru I am, peace. Kevro's God, peace. Good evening. Such a good day. Such a good life. Nope, not that one. Let's go with that one. April Khan. Good evening. So look, you asked about my dressers and what I was doing. So essentially, I was painting them white, and I thought that I'd be super slick and get myself some glitter spray paint, right? For some reason, it's easier to buy them in a 6-pack than a single. So that's what I did. I got a whole pack of these. But it didn't turn out the way that I thought it would turn out. As you can see, it looked okay, right? I got this all painted white. But the glitter added a bit of texture. I mean, it's not terrible, but I expected it to be shiny glittery. I'm not complaining though. I think I did a pretty decent job. All right. Yeah, I think I have to get a clear gloss coat. That's what I'll have to do. Here's the other one. Not bad. I'm not complaining. Just next time I'll have to get a clear gloss coat. Clear gloss coat. Alright. So let's get started with chapter 1. April Khan says, it's looking great, unicorn style, huh? Exactly. Exactly. It's the duty of the mages to transform your environment into that which is harmonious. Nuru, peace and greetings. Alright, so I'm going to flip the camera around and we will get started on chapter 1 of Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga. Alright. Let us begin. James Jeremiah, peace, peace. Long rise the unicorn, peace and greetings, Travis. Peace and greetings to you. So let's get started here. Jnana Yoga by Swami Niranjanananda Saraswati. Ashe to the order of the phoenix. Ashe to the order of the unicorn. Aww. Swami Satyananda Saraswati. Peace to you. So chapter 1 is the faculty of intelligence. That's what we're going to be diving into today. Ace, peace, peace. Will Trent says, sure did that to Lou. I don't understand. So yeah, everything in my room is white with the accent of glitter. So I got those 2 dressers, and before I put them in my room, they had to conform to the standard. Plus, painting is kind of fun. Alright, so let's get with it. Also, as you guys know, the way that YouTube promotes their videos is through engagement. So if you're here and you enjoy this experience and you're learning, go ahead and click that like button because it does help. It may seem trivial, but it does help. So thank you for those who have already liked the video. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. All right. Friday night story time. The faculty of intelligence. Once there lived a lion in a jungle who was a very good hunter. One day he wandered everywhere in search of prey. However, he could not catch a single animal. At sunset, the lion went into a cave, thinking that it was bound to be the home of some animal. He calculated that when it returned in the evening, he would pounce upon it and make it his meal. With this thought, the lion stayed in the cave, hiding and waiting for the tenant of the cave to come back. Sure enough, the tenant, which happened to be a jackal called Very Clever, returned in the evening. Before entering the cave, the jackal looked around. He noticed a set of footprints which were not his own. Going into the cave and recognized them as a lion's footprints. He looked carefully and realized that the footprints were leading into a cave, but not out of it. He thought to himself, there's a lion in my cave, but how can I know for sure? What can I do to find out? Suddenly, an idea struck him. He stood at the entrance of the cave and shouted, "Hello, cave!" He repeated, "Cave! Cave! I am here!" Naturally, the cave remained silent. After waiting for some time, the jackal called out again, "Cave! Cave! I am here! Why are you not answering me? Have you forgotten the pact that we made? We agreed that every evening I would call out to you and you would welcome me home. You would say, 'Welcome.' What happened? Why are you not welcoming me today? If you do not reply, I shall go away to some other cave." Now the lion was all brawn, but no brain. He thought to himself, if the jackal is calling out to the cave, they must have promised to welcome each other. The cave is not responding because I'm sitting here and it's afraid of me. Before the jackal goes away, I should pretend to be the cave and invite him in. The lion called out to the jackal, "Come in, come in, welcome." But the lion had forgotten that his voice was not like that of the cave. It was a roar so loud that the entire cave echoed, and even animals far away became frightened. The jackal said to the cave, "Your voice has changed today," and bolted, saying to himself, "He who anticipates the coming of a disaster and acts accordingly is spared. He who fails to anticipate it comes to grief. I have grown old living in this jungle, but I have never heard a cave talking." Man. Nice. Will Trent, I see your message here. Now you said a Magus' job is to transform their space into harmony. My environment in the family I was staying with was too toxic, and I decided to live out in my car. Put my Rujakash on, went to sleep in the car, then got a message from a friend saying that I could stay for the month because their lease is up soon. I tell you not, the first night I'm taking a shower and I look in the closet and I see a unicorn, makeup, and then making upon my plate, she gave me a unicorn blanket, which is just fucking crazy. Now me and another friend are waiting on an apartment complex to get back to us, so I made a move, and I made it hard to harmonious. Yeah, man, it starts to get effortless. It really does. Stick with it, my friend. Stick with it. Matthew Watson, peace, bro. So here we have the story of a jackal returning to its cave, and then we see that there's actually a lion in the cave. And the jackal's pretty clever, so he calls out to the cave and says, "Hey, remember our agreement? You're supposed to communicate with me." The lion, not being very smart, starts talking back to him in his loud roar. And the jackal's like, "Listen, this line right here. He who anticipates the coming of a disaster and acts accordingly is spared. He who fails to anticipate it comes to grief. I've grown old living in this jungle, but I have never heard a cave talking." The point that emerges from the story is that It is the application of intelligence which makes you clever. What makes you clever? The application of intelligence. A lot of us are very smart, but how often do we apply those smarts? It is the application of intelligence which makes you clever. If you apply your intelligence properly, you are clever. If you do not apply your intelligence properly, you are dumb. The application of the intellect saved the jackal from becoming prey to the lion. When he saw the footprints of the lion leading into the cave, he did not get scared or run away. Instead, he used his intelligence to find out who was inside the cave. The lion was dumb. He did not apply his intelligence. Had he applied his intelligence, he would have wondered how a cave could possibly speak. Therefore, proper application and use of the intellect makes you clever. The faculty of intelligence. Everyone possesses the faculty of intelligence, but cleverness manifests when the intellect is combined with knowing and intuitive discrimination. If the knowing, discriminative ability is not there in the intellect, one remains dumb, despite possessing intelligence. Cleverness indicates a state of mind which is sharp, perceptive, receptive, and responsive. It is a state of mind which leads one to avoid many pitfalls in life. If the clever state of mind does not prevail, rather the dumb state prevails, there is conflict, confusion, doubt, and uncertainty, and one wastes life away. The intellect is a faculty which has been granted to human beings and not to any other creature in this world. What is the meaning of intellect? I know that I am. I know that I live. That awareness is the intellectual awareness of I exist. Animals have a mind which is not self-aware. It is not intellect-based, it is based on instinct. Animals feel hungry, but they don't know that they are hungry. You feel hungry, and you know that you are hungry. You can say, I am hungry. I feel hunger. My stomach is rumbling. You can use many different sentences to define what you are feeling with the aid of your intellect. An animal does not have this faculty. It has the instinctive faculty. It lives, but it does not have the awareness, I live. Do y'all see the difference here? Because of course, animals, bugs, and plants, and everything that consumes feels hunger if they're not getting fed, of course. But there's a difference from feeling that and being aware of the feeling. That's what makes the difference between a human and an animal or a plant or any other sentient being. We have what he calls this faculty of intelligence, the faculty of intelligence. Is it exercised, though? Is it exercised? See, there's a lot of things that are going on in your life that you feel instinctively. But how much of it are you aware of? Are you living and behaving on autopilot? Or are you aware of the subtle influences that dictate your thought process? Just something to think about. So he says, you can use many different sentences to define what you're feeling with the aid of your intellect. An animal does not have this faculty. It has the instinctive faculty. It lives, but it does not have the awareness, I live. It feels hungry, but it does not have the awareness, I am hungry. You see the difference there? It feels hungry, but it doesn't have the awareness, I am hungry. Have you ever had a feeling that didn't reach your awareness? Think about it. Think about it. I suspect that we have feelings all the time that don't quite make it to our awareness. But what would happen if we did cast our awareness upon these instinctual feelings? You know what would happen? It's called shadow work. Because, see, most of the time we have these feelings, but we don't put awareness to them. So, because we feel them, we act upon them just based on instinct, right? Because you feel upset, now you're going to behave in such a way that reflects you being upset. But if you put your awareness on that feeling, you naturally begin to ask questions. Why am I feeling this way? What made me feel this way? How long will I feel this way? How often do I feel this way? When you start asking these questions, you start breaking down what's actually happening in your process. And the more that you do that, the less of an influence these feelings have over your mind. You feel me? Most people don't think about how they're thinking. They don't think about what they're thinking or how they're feeling. They just do whatever impulse comes. And does that make you any different from an animal? Does that make you any different from an animal? Just because you're able to go to work and buy clothes and play video games, does that make you different from an animal? Let's continue. So, you can use many different sentences to define what you're feeling with the aid of your intellect. An animal does not have this faculty. It has the instinctive faculty. It lives, but it does not have the awareness, I live. It feels hungry, but it does not have the awareness, I am hungry. Human beings have that quality of awareness and understanding. This understanding is Buddhi, or intelligence. Remember, we talked about the four aspects of mind: Buddhi, Ahamkara, Chitta, Manas. All of those can go very deep. But just to keep it simple, Manas deals with the body mind. So the five senses that you pull in together, that accumulates in what's called Manas. Above that is Chitta, which is commonly defined as memory. Now, this isn't just your memory, this is the collective memory of yourself, your genetics, your family, your race, your planet, the angels, the archangels, the gods, etc. But depending on your development, that has everything to do with what level of chitta you're able to access. Ahamkara deals with the I-ness, the attachment, right? You being attached to the things that you observe. I am this style of dress. I am this way of talking, right? I am these likes. I am these dislikes. Then, of course, Buddhi, as he says here, this understanding is Buddhi, or intelligence, the understanding of what's happening in the mind. Self-awareness is what Buddhi represents. So it is an expression of consciousness, just as feelings and emotions, thinking, analyzing, and rationality, and being self-aware are expressions of consciousness. So let me ask this question, and peace, Zaire, Anu, peace, peace. Is everyone here familiar with the Antakarana? In other words, the aggregation of the four aspects of mind: Buddhi, Ahamkara, Chitta, Manas. Is anyone here familiar with those four concepts? So basically, these are the 4 layers of thought process, of mind. Had to go grab the whiteboard just in case diagrams were going to be made. But let's keep going. A new approach to Jnana Yoga. The tradition of yoga explains the subject of intelligence, or Buddhi, clearly. Yogis have understood Buddhi to be as important as the mind, emotions, prana, and body. They devised different systems of yoga, each system being a process to explore the potential inherent in different states and conditions of life. It is commonly believed there are 5 systems of yoga. The yogic tradition and our guru, Sri Swami Niranjanananda, have stated that there are 5 principal systems of yoga. The first is Hatha Yoga for the body, to explore the potential inherent in the body and bring it to an optimum state of health and well-being. So remember, before we talked about the physical yoga that's very popular. Everyone knows about the poses and the postures and all that stuff. Hatha Yoga is what it's called. And the poses are actually called asanas. And this is a particular book that has a diagram of very many of them, 608 to be exact. You can find this on Amazon. But that's what most people think of when they see the word yoga. They think of body poses and postures. But that's only one of several branches, 8 branches of yoga. And here it talks about 5. But what he says here is the second is Raja Yoga for the mind, right? To explore the potential of the mind and to go beyond the mental limitations. So that's what Raja Yoga is about. Raja Yoga is about the mind. It's about exploring the potential of the mind and going beyond that. So what else do we have? The third is Bhakti Yoga for the emotions, to explore emotions and channel them towards a positive spiritual direction for uplifting and purifying the consciousness. And Bhakti Yoga is very important. And here's the thing. Understand that this science predates all the different religions that we're used to. So when we talk about Bhakti Yoga, this is the science of devotion and submission to divinity, right? Not sacrificing yourself and bowing down to some god in the sky, but it is a submission to the realization that everything is already harmonious and perfect. Everything is already harmonious, perfect, and beautiful. And embracing the joy that comes with that realization. So there are aspects of Christianity that can be considered Bhakti Yoga. There are aspects of Islam that can be considered Bhakti Yoga. There's aspects of many walks of human life that can be considered Bhakti Yoga. But you have to get past the labels. See, the labels is what causes the problems, because people think, I believe in this and I belong to this, and you don't, you're against it, so you're my enemy. But notice, we're not even analyzing the actions and the behaviors. We're simply analyzing the labels and the categories. That is one of the stupidest reasons to fight somebody over labels and categories. That makes no sense, right? So when we talk about these different branches of yoga, you will find them in all religions. Number 1, because this stuff came first, and number 2, because these are descriptions of human nature, not a specific religion. So you'll find different asanas of Hatha Yoga in systems like, hell, even P90X. I remember taking P90X and thinking that I was going to get ripped and cut and get some abs and all that stuff. But I remember there's specific yoga poses even in that exercise regimen. So it doesn't have to be called yoga. But within yoga is a description of what's actually taking place. So just like Hatha yoga is a way of utilizing the physical body to come to a harmonious relationship with the inner self, just like Raja yoga is utilizing the science of mind to come into a harmonious relationship with the inner self, just like Bhakti yoga is utilizing submission to divinity as a way of becoming harmonious with the self. These are representations of what are called the 8 branches of yoga. So next he says, the 4th is karma yoga. And this, we read about this 2 months ago. The 4th is karma yoga, in which one tries to improve oneself through one's behavior and actions. So karma yoga is coming into awareness of the unified self through your actions and your behaviors. Understanding that everything you do, the way that you behave, doesn't just affect you, but affects the whole. To interact in an effective, efficient, and creative manner with the environment and oneself. In the same way, to harness and properly utilize the potential of human intelligence, they devised the system of Jnana yoga. So Jnana yoga is a form of coming into a harmonious relationship with the inner self through what? Through properly utilizing the potential of human intelligence. That's what we're studying today. Jnana yoga deals with the development and proper application of the faculty of intelligence. Buddhi is the primary tool required in the practice of Jnana yoga. So check that out. Just like the physical body is the primary tool required in Hatha yoga, right? Just like ego might be the primary tool for Raja yoga, just like your emotions, your emotional body, your astral body, the emotional nature of you is going to be the primary tool of Bhakti yoga. He says here that Buddhi, the aspect of Buddhi, this is going to be the primary tool required in the practice of Jnana yoga. So for those who may not know, real quick, when we talk about the fourfold nature of the self, the Antakarana, at the highest level we have Buddhi, which represents highest intellect. Not intellect as far as you analyzing logically this, that, and the third. Oh, I've got to get in the car and then put the key in and start the ignition and then press the gas. That's not the type of intellect it's talking about. We're talking about a refined, higher sense of intellect, what you would call intuition, something that operates beyond space and time. This is the highest aspect of yourself. And then we have what's called ahamkara, which is also known as ego. Now, ego is literally the function of the mind which attaches to the things that it perceives. So you see something that you like and you say, oh, that's me. You see something that you don't like and you say, oh, that's not me. I hate that. I don't like that. I don't want that. The function of that activity, of that behavior, that's ahamkara. So beyond that, we have what's called chitta. And chitta represents memory. And as I stated before, this isn't just your personal memory. This is memory that extends onto the multiple levels. So you've got your identity, you got your government name, you got your childhood. Now notice these are layers of the self. And as you meditate, if you're serious, what you'll notice is that you penetrate these layers. So I have here Travis Magus, right? That's how I know myself and how I've built myself to be. But that's built upon a foundation of who I used to be, who was John Travis, right? And that has a whole history. But that history has all come together to build who I am currently. That's founded upon my childhood. So all the experiences of my childhood, from me being born all the way to the point of me becoming self-aware, right? This is a whole layer of information. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's still buried in my subconscious mind. Even below that, if I were to meditate and concentrate deep enough, I get into the hereditary level. And I begin looking into my genetics. I begin looking into my family, my father, my mother, my grandparents, and everyone who came before me. Family history. And I'll begin to learn about my family karma, right? What do y'all call that stuff? What do y'all call it? Generational curses and shit like that. That's going to be at this level. Now, if you penetrate even deeper, you'll get to the species level, the human race level. And now science calls this level the morphogenetic field, right? Now, within this realm is where we get the Goetia and different spirits like that. Because the Goetic spirits and the different pantheons, they're not personal and individual. They're related to the race. And this is where they reside as archetypes on this level. If you continue deep enough, you'll get to what the Kabbalah calls the Yetziratic plane, which deals with the angels, and the Briatic plane, which deals with the archangels, and then the Absolute plane, which deals with the God forms. And this is getting more to the pristine essence of the expression, right? So who and what I am is an expression of a specific archetype, God form, essence. Just like who you are is not the purified version, but is an expression of an essence, right? So all this I would classify as Chitta, as memory, as individual, personal, cosmic memory. Memory has different layers. You got your personal memory, which is up in this realm, but then you have species memory, then you have cosmic memory, right? But it all depends on your level of focus and how deep you're actually able to go in meditation. Most people are not able to go past this level of childhood, because within this level of childhood reside many traumas. Many traumas. When y'all talk about doing shadow work, this is where you're doing it at. So many things happen to you in your life. There's so many emotional blockages that you're not able to get into these deeper layers. So, we can forget about astral projection and all this other stuff until we have resolved the discrepancies that are happening at this level. So, of course, Buddhi, Ahamkara, Chitta, and then, of course, Manas. And Manas represents the body-mind. Manas represents the five senses. And when they come together, they create information that the inner self can use to navigate and utilize what's happening with the physical body. But this is called the Antakarana, which means inner tool. This is how you personally navigate reality. This is how the cosmic nature uses the individual through this inner tool. Check. Chickadee, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Let me know if that was understood. Let me know if it was not. Vincent L. Crystal, peace, peace. Society Ejects, peace, bro. Pork Hill, peace, peace, greetings. Society Eject says, I was watching a show called Moon Knight. They called the ego a parasite. Yeah, I've heard about that show. I didn't watch it, but I heard about it. Interesting. But yeah, ego is often demonized. But Sunshine Chick, you the books that you showed me just yesterday, one of them was talking about how even ego is divine and ego should be respected and loved. I don't like to think of any part of myself as a parasite. I like to think of every aspect of myself as being harmonious and beneficial to the whole. And it goes deep, because even to demonize even a small aspect of self What are you doing subconsciously? You're telling yourself that a part of you is imperfect. And I can't afford to do that. Not no more. There's absolutely no part of my being that is imperfect or detrimental, or evil, or something to be feared or purged. None of that. All right, so I went off on a little bit of a tangent, but I just wanted to make clear these aspects of the mind, because what he said here is Buddhi is the primary tool required in the practice of Jnana Yoga. And like I mentioned, Buddhi represents what you would call intuition, the higher self. That's going to be the tool of focus for this book, the next 4 weeks, and hopefully for the rest of your life. Every yoga has an aim and a purpose, and the sadhana of that yoga takes the practitioner towards that aim. What is the sadhana of Jnana Yoga? What is its aim? The goal of Jnana Yoga is to free the Vishayatmika, the object-oriented, and Vyavasyatmika, negotiation-oriented Buddhi. So right here, he's classifying two types of Buddhi, the object-oriented and the negotiation-oriented, due to which you struggle in life and realize pain and pleasure, to know itself. So basically, there's an aspect of Buddhi, and I drew these in order, right? From subtle to dense. Manas, 5 senses, physical body. This is physical body awareness. You smell something and you make a judgment on it. You hear something, you taste something, you see something. This is all 5 sense body awareness. Chitta is the memory. So what happens here in this hierarchy is that you might pick up something with your 5 senses, but then you're going to relate it to memory, to either your personal memory, or if you've been able to penetrate deeper into yourself, you might be able to tap into those levels. Most people are not able to do that, so they strictly base everything they do off their 5 senses. Now, when your body is detecting sound and smell and sight, and you're relating it to memory of what happened to you in the past, ego now comes in and says, I like it or I don't like it. And this is the decision maker. I like that memory based on the sensory agitation, or I don't like this experience based on the memory picked up by the sensory agitation. Now, the mass majority of people do not make it past that level. Then we've got Buddhi, which represents intuition, higher self, higher intellect. And as I said before, this level extends beyond time and space. So we're dealing with something that is outside of the 5 sense experience. So that means the body may smell, hear, or taste, or see, or pick up something that they can relate to a specific memory, and the ego may say, I like it or don't like it. But if you're able to tap into this level of self, Buddhi, you can make the wisest decision because you're not looking at right now. You feel me? This is transcendental, like Sunshine Chick just said. Omni Arlandrea, peace, peace. So it does take a level of refinement to really be able to utilize this aspect of self. So what he was saying is here that there's object-oriented and negotiation-oriented Buddhi, due to which you struggle in life and realize pain and pleasure, to know itself. That is the purpose of Jnana Yoga, to know and realize oneself by becoming free of the bondages of the world. What's the purpose of Jnana Yoga? To know and realize oneself by becoming free of the bondages of the world. Normally, when people think of Jnana Yoga, they equate it with self-inquiry, with the question, who am I? If you open any book or observe any statement made in relation to Jnana Yoga, it will say, Jnana Yoga is self-inquiry. Discover your real nature. Discover who you are. Are you this body? Are you this mind? Are you the senses? Find out who you truly are. Once you know that, you will become established in Jnana, knowledge, and Buddhi, intelligence. However, this approach of inquiring, who am I, is not an appropriate sadhana for everyone, as we've seen, right? If it was possible to attain something merely by thinking about it, then discipline, action, and experience would have no meaning in life. If you could be satisfied by thought alone, then effort and action would have no meaning in life. If you are hungry and begin to think, I am feeding myself, my stomach is becoming full, my hunger is being sated, you will not be able to satiate your hunger. Similarly, if you are exhausted and begin to think, I am relaxed, I am relaxed, I am relaxed, you will not overcome your tiredness. Therefore, by thinking, I am not this body, I am not this mind, I am not the senses, how can you transcend the experiences of the body, mind, or the senses? How? By thinking, I am not the individual self, but a part and parcel of the cosmic self, can you become that? Very key right there, because we see that literally every day, right? People talking about how, oh, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind. But here's the thing, just like when you're tired and you're exhausted, just because you say, oh, I'm not tired, that doesn't make you not tired. You know what I'm saying? If you're hungry and you just think about food, that doesn't make you full, right? And people who are saying, oh, I'm not coming back to this plane again, that doesn't necessarily make it so. You're just talking words. You don't even know what you're talking about, right? There's a difference between talking about it and being about it. It don't take a yoga book to tell us that, right? You ever known somebody who would talk about stuff, but they weren't actually about it? How did you feel when that person would talk about doing things or being something, and you know damn well they're not even living that kind of lifestyle? How does that make you feel to hear somebody talk about something, but they're not being about it? Oh, I am not this body. I am not this mind. I am not the senses. Just because you say it, I'm sorry, that don't mean anything. It's not about saying it. There has to come a point where you experience it. And you know what? When you get to that level, you don't have to say it to anybody. Because why would you tell anybody that? Let's continue. It is not possible for an average person to accomplish this because your thoughts are dissipated. Your mind is so dissipated that it has no power, no strength, no sankalpa, resolve. You cannot even wake up at 4 in the morning without the aid of an alarm clock. And you want to attain Brahmahood by thinking, I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. You cannot even guide your mind or control its reactions. And you wish to bring about transformation of the mind by thinking, I am Brahman, I am not this body, I am not this mind. It is all delusion and self-hypnosis. What then is the process of Jnana Yoga? Yogic view of intelligence. To understand the process of Jnana Yoga, you have to understand what Buddhi, or intelligence, is from the yogic perspective. We are not talking about the normal social understanding of intelligence. We're talking about the yogic thoughts and principles which allow the flowering of intelligence. From the yogic perspective, Buddhi, or intelligence, is experienced in two forms. One form connects with and relates to the world of the senses and sense objects, and the other creates a link between the gross mind and the higher self. Every individual in this world lives the first aspect, where the intelligence is connected with the outer environment, with the senses and the sense objects. This gives birth to Bahirmukti Vritti, extroverted vritti. This means that your nature, your total mind, is connecting with sense objects. 100% of your mental faculties are associating with, connecting to, realizing, and experiencing the material and sensorial dimension. This interaction between the total mind, the intelligence, sense objects, and the sensorial world creates a condition of mind which is gross. This condition is known as Vishayakara Vritti. The modifications or states of mind are connected with sense objects, with raga and dvesha, which translates as craving and repulsion. The Vishayakara Vritti is the extroverted vritti identifying with sense objects. This is apara buddhi. And how many times have we heard before about how the mind is constantly stimulated by craving and repulsion? Every single decision that we make is based on craving an outcome or avoiding an outcome. He says that's gross mind, that's dense mind. That is attachment to sensorial objects. It's called apara buddhi. So that's one form, the base form, the very common form. Let's talk about the other aspect of buddhi. The other aspect of intelligence is where it is disconnected from the sensorial dimension, from the world of senses and sense objects. It becomes self-luminous. That state of self-luminosity is known as prajñātmika buddhi or parabuddhi. Intelligence filled with the wisdom and luminosity of knowledge, which is transcendental. This is the state of mind which yogis aspire to attain. It has been defined in yoga as samadhi and in the Bhagavad Gita as sthita prajna, effulgent wisdom or effulgent intelligence. Let me know if you understand so far. Let me know if you don't. Intelligence as tool of higher consciousness. Stability of intelligence is a sign of beginning the journey in Jnana Yoga. Without the intelligence becoming stable, firm, and fixed, Jnana Yoga does not commence. I'll read that again. Without the intelligence becoming stable, firm, and fixed, Jnana Yoga does not commence. This indication has been given by Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna poses a question. "O Krishna, tell me, how can I attain you? How can I realize you?" Krishna says there are three methods. Three methods, right? The first is fix your mind on me. Mayeva mana arhatsva. Arjuna says that will be difficult because the mind cannot be made stable. It cannot be fixed. Just as the wind cannot be contained and stilled, in the same manner, the mind cannot be contained or stilled. The behavior, nature, and character of the mind is not to be still, but to continuously move like the wind. It is not easy to still the mind and connect it with the Atma Tattva, the spirit element, unless there is intense mental resolve and will force. If there is a strong will, then one can move the mind away from objects and fix it upon a point. Until there is intensity of will and resolve, the mind cannot be made steady. If you have the physical copy, I think that would be good 3 sentences to highlight there. You have all experienced that movement of the mind Whether you need to concentrate on anything, you find that the mind goes away from that point. Whenever you need to concentrate on anything, you find that the mind goes away from that point. You cannot hold the mind fixed on the object of concentration for long. A classic example is the practice of mantra. Whenever you do your japa, for how many beads are you aware of the mantra? How many times in the course of one mala do you have to bring your mind back to the japa? For many people, practicing one mala of mantra takes about 5 minutes. Even in those 5 minutes, you have to pull the mind back to the japa 50 times. What is the percentage of your concentration and mental fixity? 5 beads of mala? 10 beads of mala? If you can remain focused on your mantra for only 10 beads before it goes to some other place, it is a shameful condition. It indicates lack of control over the mental fluctuations and validates what Arjuna said to Krishna. To contain and control the mind is as difficult as containing and controlling the wind. I can try, but I don't know if I will succeed in fixing my mind on you. Krishna says, first, try to fix the mind. Arjuna says, it requires too much struggle with the mind. Krishna says, all right, the second method is fix your intellect on me. Mayi buddhim niveshaya. Arjuna says, how is that possible? Krishna explains, your intelligence is dispersed because of the association with the senses and sense objects. You, with your buddhi, identify with what you crave and desire. Remove your buddhi from those cravings, desires, and self-oriented thoughts, and remember me with a feeling of satisfaction and contentment. It is easier to still the intellect compared to the mind, as the intellect can take the shelter of jnana, wisdom, and influence the thinking. Once the intellect finds the shelter of jnana, then the thought process and mind move in the right direction. In addition, the strength of the intellect can be used to awaken the feeling of oneness. This can be understood with an example. If you got the physical copy on page 8, that paragraph would be good to highlight and analyze. Your intelligence is dispersed because of the association with the senses and sense objects. You, with your buddhi, identify with what you crave and desire. You identify with what you crave and desire. Do you not identify with what you crave and desire? Remove your buddhi from those cravings, desires, and self-oriented thoughts, and remember me with a feeling of satisfaction and contentment. It is easier to still the intellect compared to the mind, as the intellect can take the shelter of jnana, wisdom, and influence the thinking. Once the intellect finds the shelter of jnana, then the thought process and mind move in the right direction. Nicole Berkeley, peace, peace. Your intelligence is dispersed. Why? Because of the association with the senses and sense objects. Plain and simple. Society Eject says this book is on our ass. Exactly. I told y'all this is the one that gets a little bit more specific in its direction of pressure, to put it that way. So, as he says here, in addition, the strength of the intellect can be used to awaken the feeling of oneness. This can be understood with an example. Imagine that you are a parent and your children have gone to Europe to work or study. Initially, you will feel a bit lonely and isolated. You will miss and remember your children. At times, you may be up at night looking over their bed because you miss them. You miss them due to your attachment, but deep inside you are content and happy that they have gone to fulfill their mission in life, to excel in studies and succeed in their profession. You know that they're living their own destiny and gaining fame, name, and glory. If you focus on this thought, then you will not be depressed or sad, although you will miss your children. Rather, you will be contented and satisfied that they are fulfilling their dharma in life. Therefore, if you become attached, there is no progress. But if you apply your intelligence, you can find inner balance and contentment. Even though the children are far away, there is contentment, not attachment. In this way, when the attachment to the objects of the world reduces with right understanding, gradually the intellect becomes steady. Notice the relationship here between attachment and intellect, attachment and Buddhi. Notice the relationship there between attachment and intellect. Only one can reign supreme. So in the example that he just gave, if you have kids that you raise and they grow up to become college age and they go off to college, your intellect will be happy because they're going off to do bigger, better things. But if your ego rules, you're going to be sad and butthurt because, oh, my kids are not here, and I personally am sad because they're not here and I'm attached to them. Big difference. But that's just an example because it's not just about kids going to college. This has to do with everything in your life. I am says, would these considered to be attachments? I don't understand the question. Thank you, Stray Panther. Thank you, Sunshine Chick. So, therefore, if you become attached, there is no progress. But if you apply your intelligence, you can find inner balance and contentment. Get out your feelings. Even though the children are far away, there is contentment, not attachment. In this way, when the attachment to the objects of the world reduces with right understanding, gradually the intellect becomes steady. When the intellect becomes perfectly steady, it is called prajñātmika buddhi. You are no longer attached to your child, but you are happy that whatever he or she is doing is for the best. The form of the intellect is different here. It is balanced. There is no restlessness in it. There is awareness in the intellect that you and your children are not separate. They are trying to attain their aim in life, and so are you. Thus, when there is input of wisdom, the vyavasyatmika buddhi becomes prajñātmika buddhi. When there is input of wisdom, that's what makes it different. Just as parents can remember their children in distant countries and be happy for them, the devotee can fix the intellect on the Lord and be happy with a sense of contentment and satisfaction that they are with him, that they are fixed in him, they are together. Arjuna says, if that is also difficult, is there any other method? Krishna says, yes, there is another method, but that is even more difficult. The third method is complete surrender. Nivasishyasi mayeva. This means that even as you live in the world, remain nirlipta, non-attached from it, and stay with the Lord. It requires you to have the nirlipta bhava. If you are caught up in the world, the family, and society, then nivasishyasi mayeva will not be possible. which is complete surrender. It is necessary to disengage from the world to practice this method. Krishna gives Arjuna 3 methods to realize the divine nature. The sublime and the highest method is total surrender. Detach from the world and reside in me. If disengaging from the world, you remain absorbed in the thoughts of the Supreme and see the whole world as a reflection of the Supreme, your journey in the right direction is assured. The medium method is fixing the intelligence and not allowing it to waver in the dimension of the senses and sense objects. By using the intelligence and allowing wisdom to flower within, you can attain a state of contentment and steadiness. The lower grade method is bring back your mind again and again. Whenever it goes away, bring it back and focus again. Jnana Yoga deals with the second method, fixing the intelligence. This leads to a different understanding and belief of life. It has also been called abstract philosophy, but it is a different understanding and belief of life. Vedanta and Advaita believe in monism. Everything is one. I am part of that. That is part of me. There is no duality. When there is no duality, there is no concept, understanding, the idea or awareness of you and me as separate beings. In that state of unified experience, when everything has come together, you realize your true nature. I am the higher consciousness. This is the statement of Advaita Vedanta, the system or school of thought which believes in monism or unity of life. Jnana yogis who reach the apex of jnana speak of this experience. According to them, the core precept of jnana yoga is to be able to perceive oneself and the whole world as part of the one indestructible principle, Ishvara. Leanne says, I'm happier for my kids to be happy living life without me, if need be, than for my kids to be bored at home with me. I love them that much. I think that's a lesson that us parents learn, that our children do have separate lives. And while we are responsible in a sense for quote unquote bringing them into this world, they do have their own paths. And oftentimes, it'll be best for them if we take care of our inner selves, as best as we can, and make sure that we're stable so that if the time comes that they do need us, we're there to take care of them in our stability. Cameron McDaniel says, so showing constant gratitude balances the ego. It very well can. Because it's not so much like showing constant gratitude is helpful, but it's not just the act of just saying I'm grateful for this, that, and the third. When you live in a state of gratitude, you begin to realize life differently. You begin to look at life in a way that you can appreciate things. Because look at the opposite. If you're not living in gratitude, you're always complaining about shit. It's not good enough for you. So if you're constantly living life that way, you won't be able to receive the goodness that's already present. You might get something good and still complain about it because that's in your habit pattern, that's in your nature. But to live in a life of gratitude, it does help to balance the ego because you see that there are actually things to be grateful for, even if they're small. Sunshine Chick asks, Advaita Vedanta is the same as Samkhya philosophy. They're actually slightly different. They're very similar, but slightly different. slightly different. So Sunshine Chick, I don't know if you have this book here, Awakening the Life Force, but in it, he actually does compare Advaita Vedanta and Samkhya, and he shows their differences and similarities. Hold on, I'm looking for a diagram here to show you. What are you eating, puppy? Here we go. Nope, that's not it. Here it is. Yeah. So here he shows a difference in the different philosophies from Samkhya, Yoga, and Vedanta. And we talk about the founder of Samkhya is Kapila. We're actually going to learn more about that next month as we dig into this book. So Samkhya is founded by Kapila. Yoga is founded by Patanjali, and we know about that from the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And the Vedanta is founded by Vyasa. You might have heard his name in some of these mantras. So let's just briefly here, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but the aim of the philosophy for Samkhya, to have realized knowledge of the tattvas through actual spiritual experience, right? We know about that. And transcend them in order to attain liberation. So that's why in class there's so much focus on the tattvas, on the elements and experience, right? So that's the aim of Samkhya. The aim of yoga is, while Samkhya and Vedanta are theoretical, yoga describes the practical process of transcending to attain realized knowledge through which liberation is attained. I think there's a word missing here. Transcending the blank to attain realized knowledge through which liberation is attained. And then Vedanta here, the aim of the philosophy is liberation can be attained by realized knowledge, Jnana, of the highest spirit, Brahman, agrees with Samkhya that this knowledge can be attained only by transcending the 25 tattvas of Prakriti. So there's a similarity between Samkhya and Vedanta in that they recognize that the 25 tattvas of Prakriti must be realized, recognized, and transcended. And once that happens, we attain liberation. The difference is Vedanta believes in an entity higher than Purusha Prakriti, an entity that is higher than Shiva Shakti. And that entity is called Brahman, whereas Samkhya does not necessarily commit to that higher power. They don't negate each other. It's just that Vedanta, like it says here, stance on existence of God. Samkhya says non-theistic, no mention of God. It does mention the states of Shiva and Shakti, consciousness and matter. But then when we look at Vedanta, he says the whole universe is derived from a single essence, Brahman. All creation, including Ishvara, emanates from and is a reflection of Brahman. So really the big difference between Samkhya and Vedanta is that they both recognize the 25 aspects of Prakriti, but Vedanta says that there is a God that is beyond creation. Samkhya is pretty much pure science and doesn't necessarily recognize a God beyond Prakriti. ZJ says Purusha and Prakriti aren't really separate. You can have one without the other. They unite in the unmanifest dimension. Absolutely. MC Maestro says next book is about to lay it down once and for all. This series has answered every question. I'm trying to tell him. The only reason that you're not getting this is if you're not paying attention. That's it. But if you have these books and you're reading them and you're taking this shit seriously, this should clear up all confusion, really. But that's not for me to say. That's up to your level of education. MC Maestro says Ishvara equals Hakma. I can't say that I know enough to make that equation yet. But I am starting to see a lot of similarities. You said something profound when you said that Prana Shakti represents the tree of life. That was a pretty big deal for me because I keep seeing it now. I'm looking for this picture of, there she is. And every time I see this now, I think about the tree. So I noticed the crown on her head, and I noticed the goad, that's a masculine symbol, right? Phallus, penis. Then you got that noose, right? Feminine symbol, vagina. This goes into that. Isn't that what's happening in the upper triad, the crown? You see what's happening here? This and that. And then furthermore, we're to talk about Gibara and Chesed, abundance, limitation, attack. Then we talk about the knowledge of Hod. And we talk about Netzach, so on and so forth. But I also see that in the image of Durga. I was meditating on Durga earlier today, and she actually has 8 arms. Yeah. So that fills it in even more. 8 arms with her head as a crown and her resting upon a lion, which would make for 10. So yeah, you could definitely overlay this with the Tree of Life. Good stuff. But that's advanced. All right. Stray Panther says, I wonder if you can overlay that picture with one of the Tree of Life. I think so. I think one of us will have to create it because I have not heard anybody say that outside of MC Maestro. MC Maestro says further that each deity is in different forms. I started to realize on Mantra Yantra combo can clear up all planets. But can you believe that as a practitioner? Naturally Nature says, hey family, can someone remind me where the info on the angels for tardy and tidy in the Kabbalah book? I'm not sure what you mean by tardy and tidy. But as far as the angels in the Kabbalah book, I think what you might be referring to is a Ladder of Lights. Correct me if I'm wrong. But you can screenshot this to get the pages. Metatron on page 211, the Chayath HaKadesh, page 207, Ratziel 190, Alphanum 187, Zafkiel 172, Arlam 169, Masukiel 150, Zadkiel 140, Chasmalim 138, etc., etc. That's Ladder of Lights. Okay, so your intelligence is dispersed because of the association with the senses and sense objects. She says we read it last week. I forgot to highlight. So last week we were looking at the Practical Guide to Kabbalistic Symbolism. Oh yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. So we were on the sphere of Chesed, and he was talking about Zadkiel and the Chasmiller. So that's going to be on page 100 and let's see, 113. Okay. Time factor, mental confusion. That's going to be on page 121, verse 32. So page 121, verse 32, naturally natured. Basically, he says the archangel of the Sephiroth, Zadkiel, as well as the order of angels, Chasmalim or brilliant ones, can be built up in the imagination. The archangel having an especial link with the symbol of the orb, and the influence of these beings will be valuable to anyone suffering from instability, whether of mind or emotions. Generally speaking, an instability to be punctual or to control the time factor is a symptom of mental confusion, while general untidiness or inability to control the space factor is a sign of emotional confusion. The soothing, constructive forces of the Chesedic sphere can do much to relieve these conditions. Yeah, definitely something to meditate on if those are areas of your life that you would like to improve. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, let's keep going. Okay, once the intellect finds the shelter of Jnana, then the thought process and mind move in the right direction. In addition, the strength of the intellect can be used to awaken the feeling of oneness. This can be understood with an example. Okay, so we did read that with the children going off to the school. Oh yeah, that's right. The page went over. So, Krishna gives Arjuna these three methods to realize the divine nature. The sublime and the highest method is total surrender, detach from the world and reside in me. If, disengaging from the world, you remain absorbed in the thoughts of the Supreme and see the whole world as a reflection of the Supreme, your journey in the right direction is assured. The medium method is fixing the intelligence and not allowing it to waver in the dimension of the senses and sense objects. By using the intelligence and allowing wisdom to flower within, you can attain the state of contentment and steadiness. The lower grade method is bring back your mind again and again. Whenever it goes away, bring it back and focus again. In other words, we basically have three levels of practitioner. So the very beginner level, you're just going to have to pay attention to your focus and where your mind is. Of course, it's going to get scattered, distracted, and dissipated. So it's up to you now that you have this information and this knowledge. If you're serious about progressing on the spiritual path, you have to pay attention to where your focus is. And whenever it goes away, you've got to bring it back again and again. That's the beginner level. To constantly bring your awareness back to the focus. Every time you get distracted, bring it back. Just bring it back. That's the beginner stage. The medium method is fixing your intelligence and not allowing it to waver in the dimension of the senses and sense objects. So not even allowing your attention to become distracted. Holding it so steady that you don't allow yourself to get distracted by anything that's coming in through the five senses. And then he says that the highest method is total surrender. Total surrender. In disengaging from the world, you remain absorbed in the thoughts of the Supreme, and you see the whole world as a reflection of the Supreme, so that your journey in the right direction is assured. There are no enemies. All right, so Jnana Yoga deals with the second method, fixing the intelligence. So most people who are on that beginner level and ready to go up to the next level, which is maintain your frame, basically. That's what we're dealing with in this book. Jnana Yoga deals with the second method, fixing the intelligence. This leads to a different understanding and belief of life. It has also been called abstract philosophy, but it is a different understanding and belief of life. Vedanta and Advaita believe in monism. Everything is one. I am part of that. That is part of me. There is no duality. When there is no duality, there is no concept, understanding, idea, or awareness of you and me as separate beings. In that state of unified experience, when everything has come together, you realize your true nature. I am the higher consciousness. This is the statement of Advaita Vedanta, the system or school of thought which believes in monism or unity of life. Jnana yogis who reach the apex of jnana speak of this experience. According to them, the core precept of jnana yoga is to be able to perceive oneself and the whole world as part of the one indestructible principle, Ishvara. Vedantic foundation of Jnana Yoga. In the Vedas, 4 statements have been given which constitute the foundation of Jnana Yoga from the Vedantic perspective. They are called Mahavakyas, or profound statements. There's 4 of them. Number 1, Aham Brahmasami. Aham Brahmasami. I am the higher consciousness. Number 2, Tattvam Asi. You are that. Number 3, Ayam Atma Brahma. My soul is the higher consciousness. Number 4, Prajnanam Brahman. Brahman is knowledge and realization. So those 4, again, translated in English, I am the higher consciousness. You are that. My soul is the higher consciousness. Brahman is knowledge and realization. The Vedas have given these 4 sentences to reflect upon, and they constitute the Vedic foundation of Jnana Yoga. The problem, however, is that even if you begin to think, I am that, I am that, I am that, you don't become that, as your reality of living is different from your thinking. The reality in which you live, you are totally engrossed and absorbed in whatever you are experiencing or undergoing. There is no objectivity. There is no concept or sense of becoming the drashta and observing the events as they take place. You know that drashta means observer. So it says there is no concept or sense of becoming the observer and observing the events as they take place. You become involved. Big difference from being the observer and being involved. Big difference. Because being involved, you'll have a natural tendency to start taking things personally. When you're watching a movie and watching the drama take place on the screen, you don't take it personally. You understand that it's just a movie. But we don't carry that same wisdom into real life. We take everything personally, not realizing that we're just observing. So he says here, even if you start thinking to yourself, I am that, I am that, I am that, that doesn't mean you become that. Why? Because your reality of living is different from your thinking. You can think about it all you want, but the reality of your living is different. The reality is totally engrossed and absorbed in whatever you are experiencing or undergoing. So here's the thing, it's not necessarily talking about the specific lifestyle that you live, but your approach to that lifestyle. You feel me? It's not necessarily what you're doing, but how you relate to what you're doing. What does he say? He says there is no objectivity. There is no concept or sense of becoming the drasha, the observer, and observing the events as they take place. You become involved. Even sannyasins become involved. Like I said, it doesn't matter the lifestyle. It matters how you're living that lifestyle. He says even sannyasins become involved. What are sannyasins? Sannyasins are people like this who live in a monastery or, a place that you meditate all day long. Even they become involved in life, in the drama of life. So it's not about your specific circumstances, it's how you relate to those circumstances. Those who have been teaching yoga for several years and have given innumerable lectures on Raja Yoga, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and the concept of drashta, start fighting with each other, as just by thinking, I am this, one does not become that. Once I met a Jnana yogi. Out of curiosity, I asked, what kind of sadhana do you practice? Do you practice japa, dhyana, asana, pranayama? What is your sadhana of Jnana yoga? He replied in the most natural manner, Swamiji, every morning when I sit on my breakfast table, before picking up the newspaper, I ask myself, who am I? That is my sadhana. I didn't say anything at that time, but it did feel rather peculiar. After all, if you ask yourself, who am I at the time of breakfast, what is the reply you will receive? I am the one eating breakfast. You are likely to give yourself such silly replies. There is no internal research taking place. There is no depth of contemplation. It is not possible to become that merely by thinking, I am that. For thought must be united with action. If thought just remains a thought, it is a waste. But if it becomes one with behavior and action, it is realization. It is not possible to realize something by merely thinking it. It requires effort. Do the work. Did y'all catch that last piece? You ever seen somebody who thinks that they're woke just because they can say woke things? Or they can post woke things online? None of that stuff matters. None of that matters if it isn't accompanied by related action. It doesn't matter how woke you talk. How woke are you living? He says, there's no internal research taking place. There's no depth of contemplation. Depth of contemplation. You have to actually sit and think about this thing. Realize this thing. What is realization? He says it is not possible to become that merely by thinking, I am that. That's not how it works. I am a god. We the gods, right? We've heard it all before. It is not possible to become that merely by thinking, I am that. For thought must be united with action. Are you living the lifestyle that you claim? Are you living it? Or are you just saying it for people who you think are going to believe you? If thought just remains a thought, it is a waste. But if it becomes one with behavior and action, look, behavior and action, it is a realization. That's what makes it real. You think it, you do it, and you make behavior out of it. It is not possible to realize something by merely thinking of it. It requires effort. This shouldn't be foreign, like this should be common sense. But when you look at somebody and you see them on the surface level and you think that they got it going on, of course you don't see the work. So you assume that just by presenting as such is how you do it. Man. MC Maestro says somewhere in here, he says, paraphrasing, you have no choice but to live what you actually believe. Ain't no way. Ain't no other way. Society Eject says you can talk the talk, but could you walk the walk? A lot of no's. A lot of no's. Peace, Louis. Once, a man heard from a saint that God provides food for every creature. He asked the saint, "How is that possible?" The saint said, "Go and break that rock." The man went with a big hammer and struck a blow to the rock. It broke in two. Now there was a small crevice in the rock, and a tiny frog was living in it. The saint asked the man, "Tell me, who has provided for this little frog living in the rock?" The man said, "Surely it is God." Now he was convinced that God provides food for everyone. He went back home and thought, if God provides food for everyone, why do I need to work? I will sit down quietly, and he will bring me food. God was also watching this man and said to himself, I see. He's trying to test me. He is challenging me. Okay, let me see for how long he can remain hungry. God also sat back. Look at that. He sat back and God sat back. How about that? The man went out of his house, found a quiet spot, and continued to sit there with only one thought in mind. I need food. I need food. I need food. A whole day passed. He was famished, but no food came. Finally, he decided to go home and ask his wife for food. The next day, again, he sat down from morning till evening without a morsel, but no food came. Once again, he had returned to his wife. On the third day, the saint came to him, and the man said, Swamiji, you said the other day that God provides food for everyone, but he did not do anything for me. The saint asked him to explain what happened, and the man related the whole incident. The saint replied, when you sat idle expecting God to send you food, God did not do anything for you. He said, this is an idler. He just wants a free meal. I will not give him anything. At the same time, God made arrangements for you so that when you were really hungry, you made the effort to go home to your wife, who was inspired to feed you the most delicious meals. When you wanted to test God, did you make any effort? No. It was only when you felt that God wasn't doing anything that you made the effort to walk back home and ask for food. The rest of the work was done by your wife. Man. Thank God for wives. The story indicates that it is not enough to think. One has to also act, make effort. There's a story in the Upanishads. When God made man, man was hungry. He looked at food, but that did not satiate his hunger. He smelt the food, but that did not satiate his hunger. He had to eat the food for his hunger to be satiated. There was a prescribed action for intake of food. You'll have to perform it to satisfy your hunger. You'll have to pick up the food and put it in your mouth, chew it, and swallow it. Therefore, action is necessary. Thought and action, experience and action need to go together. In the same way, the four Mahavakyas are not only intended for contemplation, but they must also become part of one's behavior. In order to do this, one needs to enhance the creativity of the intellect. kind of makes us think about the previous book on mantras and yantras. Saying certain mantras and expecting a result, are you also living as if you expect that result to happen in your life? It's not about fake it till you make it, but it's more about making the effort to assist the magic that you're putting into place. Why would I say a mantra for wealth, yet behave contrary to what I'm doing a mantra for? Why would I do a mantra for success, but live in ways that bring failure? Gotta make it make sense. Why are you gonna ask God for food, but not do anything to get the food? Don't be weak. Be strong. Inquiry. Exploring reality. Each reality is as real as any other. Vedanta poses a question: is this real or is this unreal? If you say this is real, fine. If you say this is unreal, that is also fine. Both are perceptions, but you have to explain why you consider this to be real or unreal. For example, you sleep at night and have a dream. The dream is real for you while you are dreaming. But when you wake up, what was real is now only a dream. Which reality is real? The dreaming reality or the waking reality? Who knows? How can you say that you are not dreaming up this whole life? How can you say that you're not dreaming up this whole life? At the end of your 80 years, when you die, perhaps you will wake up from this dream and say, for 80 years, I was dreaming that I had a wife, children, and a home. How do you know which reality is real? That is where the inquiry of Jnana Yoga begins. It does not begin with, who am I, but with, which is the reality with which I identify? Ooh. All y'all didn't catch that, but somebody did. Let me read it again. That is where the inquiry of Jnana Yoga begins. It does not begin with who am I, but with which is the reality with which I identify. Some of y'all may not understand that that's blind, but some of y'all do. Which reality do you identify with? Again, it's not just saying, I am this and I am that. What are you living? I'm telling you, there's what makes these gems is the fact that most people can't even recognize them. But some of us do. I like this picture right here. He looks like that what's that dude's name? The action star. The guy from the UK. And he's always in like cars and shit, and they're always blowing up. But anyway, we've got Niranjanananda, Satyananda, and Satyasangananda. Tatwashuddhi, Kundalini Tantra, Dharana Darshan. Gotta love the capes and the cloaks and the royal robes, man. Gotta love it. Jason Statham, thank you, Stray Panther. Will Trent, thank you. Jason Statham, that's it. But yeah, man, I can't make you get it. I know y'all got it. But for those, because I know there's a lot of people that watch this, and I hope that you take this stuff seriously, because these are good ass questions, man. Not who am I, not just who am I, but which is the reality with which I identify. MC Maestro says, richest man in Babylon has a stonemason who tries to identify gems, knowing damn well he can't do that. Wow. Society Eject says, even so, faith, if it hath not works, is dead, being alone. Yea, a man may say, thou hast faith, and I have works. show me thy faith without thy works, and I will show thee my faith by my works. Which is the reality which I identify? Remember I showed this diagram, right? On the very surface level, you get Travis Magus. But if you're able to go a little bit deeper, like say if you're someone in my family or someone I knew in school, you can access this level, right? But say you go back even deeper than that. We get to this foundational childhood level. Even deeper than that, we've got the hereditary level, and deeper we got the species human level, then the angels, archangels, God form. It goes deep. Which level do you truly identify with? The higher you identify, the higher the level of fear. If I identify up here, I'm afraid of this image being reduced to one of these, right? What reality do you identify with? What I'd love to ask you to do for homework, but I kind of forgot, will be to get a piece of paper and to make a diagram yourself of, your surface level identity, who everybody knows you as. Then take a layer underneath as who you are underneath all that. Don't try to be cool and say, oh, I'm just the same person. No. Do who you are underneath that surface image. Then do the childhood level. Then do the hereditary level. Do the species level, the angel level, the archangel, the God form level. And take some time to meditate on what the experience is in each one of these identity levels. Who is this up here on the surface? Cool. Who is this right underneath the surface? Take a moment to examine who you used to be all your life, from a baby up to the point that you started to realize who you are. Keep in mind, these memories don't dissolve and disappear. They are stored, but they're buried under layers of identity. Write this map out if you haven't. Guarantee you it'll be something that will get you thinking in the right direction. Because most people just take this whole chunk and think that it's one thing. That's false. You exist on multiple layers. But of course, if you don't put any awareness towards that, it's not going to benefit you to even think about. Be a smart person and make that chart. By Phoebe says, those Choose Your Ending books prepared me for this. I used to love those books, man. Oh my God, I used to love those books. Choose Your Ending. I always wanted to kind of make a YouTube playlist like that, so like you can click and it would choose where you go, but I think I'm still a little bit ahead of technology with that. We Grow Natural says, show the chart again. So yeah, this, I kind of just scribbled it down after a meditation I had, and I reached this level, and this level kind of gave me this vision. But basically, it's your surface level self, who you are to the outside world. Right underneath that, who you are, who you've always been. Underneath that, something like the childhood level. This isn't like specific. This isn't concrete. This is just an example. I'm trying to demonstrate the relationship between the different levels of yourself, because it goes from being very personal to very cosmic. Because we learned about the tree of life, and the level of Atziluth, we've got the God forms. And the level of Bria, we got the archangels. And the level of Yetzirah, we got the angels. And the level of Malkuth, we've got all this human shit right here. So from the human being, the species, to your very specific hereditary line, your bloodline, your family, then your personal childhood, who you used to be, and who you actually are today. It's general. It's not specific. This isn't like written in stone. I am going to change this chart and publish it eventually, but for those of you who come to these streams, this is, something that you can use. But make your own for sure. I would say keep these lower levels the same, but these upper levels, like I said, it's like a general. I scribbled this right after meditation. I didn't have a chance to revise it just yet. But anyways, you get what I'm saying. MC Maestro says, no, there's some old videos that did Choose Your Adventure. Okay, so I should probably hunt for those. remember seeing ads for this software that allowed you to make like advertisements that people would click, and depending on what they clicked, would change the ad. But I didn't figure I'd do that. Greetings, Lamar Harmon. Peace, peace. Lamar says Bandersnatch on Netflix. Similar idea. There is with Choose Your Own, a framework of fixativity. That just came to me. I haven't seen that yet. I've heard a lot about the Bandersnatch episode. Okay, so which is the reality with which I identify? If you identify with a particular reality, then try to excel in it. Try to explore the potential of that reality to the maximum. That is the core of Jnana Yoga. Sunshine Chick asks, would this be on the same lines as archetypes? Yes, ma'am, it would. Yes, it would. So what I'm actually doing here is demonstrating that there's levels of archetypal identification. So at the very bottom where it says God forms, that's going to be the archetype itself, the pure archetype, without any kind of personal opinion and alteration, the pure archetype. But the higher up we go, the more specified it gets to you and your specific lifestyle. So even though this down here might be Tahuti or Thoth or Hermes or Mercury or Lucifer, the higher up we go, it begins to be an expression of an individual person. But the individual person is still connected to that essence, but there are many layers in between. And the more that we're able to harmonize these layers, the more that this level of essence is able to shine through. But like I said earlier, most people don't penetrate past this cloud of the childhood level because we have different childhood traumas and attachments that block us from evolving, because we get hung up on what happened to us as young folks. And what has happened shapes our opinion on life. You know. But once we're able to neutralize that and harmonize that, then we can see into ourselves a whole lot deeper. But yes, it does relate to archetypes. Yes. In class last night, I shared a YouTube video about Kabbalah. If you didn't get it, let me know on Instagram. I'll link you to it. It's like a 40-minute video talking about the introduction to Kabbalah. Nothing too profound, but he did say a few good things that I hadn't heard before. All right, let's continue. The method of understanding the process of Jnana Yoga has to be understood properly. Is Jnana only questioning? No. It is the enlarging of the scope of perception. It is enlarging the scope of perception. It is like working with an adjustable torchlight. You can twist its head to bring the light to a narrow point, or enlarge its perimeter. You guys ever seen those torches where you can twist it and the torch gets very focused, or it's more spread out? The same can be done with a flashlight. Louis says, missed a lot of the live, Trav. Will this stay up on your channel? Yes, it will. Yes, it will. We have begun a new book, and this will stay up. The normal state of Buddhi is like that of a narrow beam of light. As the Buddhi is narrow, The experiences of the mind, emotion, and environments are also narrow. The moment you begin to adjust and enlarge that light, you can see a bigger area of the ground, which has been illuminated. In the same manner, Buddhi can be developed and expanded. Beginning the process. In the process of Jnana Yoga, the first step is being aware of the material, sensorial, or externally interactive Buddhi, and then gradually arriving at stable Buddhi. Your Buddhi has been groomed in a particular way, right from the time of your birth. The focus of its development has always been external. You go to school and learn the alphabet, and that becomes the foundation for all learning in the future. A child can have the aspiration, one day I want to become a scientist, a doctor, a pilot, an engineer, an astronaut. The child can have all these desires, but the process of fulfilling any desire in life will always begin with the primary class, with learning how to recognize the alphabet. If the child says, I'm not interested in learning the alphabet, I just want to become a doctor, I don't want to study A, B, C, D, I want to study medicine, it will not work. In order to study medicine, you need to have the basic education. Know your A, B, C, D, know the characters. Once the characters have been learnt, you can study and become anything in life. The process must be undergone, however long it takes. Just as you have groomed your intellect with a certain training to function in the outer dimension and survive in the world, another grooming and training has to take place to condition the intellect to understand, appreciate, and evolve on the path of Jnana Yoga. Just because you have gone to school and are labeled as literate, can you make a decision that you want to think about Aham Brahmasmi and become that? No. That is what people try to do. You have not studied the ABCD of spiritual life, and you want to receive the degree. That sounds a lot like what we see online, don't we? You want to receive the college degree, but you don't know the ABCD. Stable Buddhi. The intellect, which deals with the world, Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, is trained when you learn the alphabet in school, go through the higher classes and college, and acquire a university degree. Similarly, the four statements of the Vedas, Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvam Asi, Ayam Atma Brahma, Prajnanam Brahman, are the university degrees of Jnana Yoga that you acquire when you finish your study of the subject. They are not sadhanas. They are 4 degrees of the University of Jnana Yoga. To reach the level where you can acquire these degrees, the intellect which connects with the higher self, Prajnatmika Buddhi, must be trained. Your mind, which was operating through Vyavasyatmika Buddhi, must be retrained and re-educated to evolve on the path of Jnana Yoga. So again, if you look back on page 10, he talks about the Vedantic foundation of Jnana Yoga. Number 1, I am higher consciousness. Number 2, you are that. Number 3, my soul is the higher consciousness. Number 4, Brahman is knowledge and realization. So while these sound really, really nice and very good, it isn't enough to just say it. There has to be a process of study and practice and experience, right? Becoming the observer and seeing this as a reality. That's when it becomes a reality. It's one thing to say it, I am healthy, wealthy, and wise, but it's another thing to put it into practice and realizing it. There is no internal research taking place. There's no depth of contemplation. Contemplation must happen. You can't just hear it or see it and then all of a sudden it's true. Contemplation It is not possible to become that merely by thinking, I am that. For thought must be united with action. If thought just remains thought, it is a waste. But if it becomes one with a behavior and an action, it is a realization. It is not possible to realize something by merely thinking it. It requires effort. So those 4 precepts that he's talking about here on page 10. 1, I am the higher consciousness. 2, you are that. 3, my soul is the higher consciousness. And 4, Brahman is knowledge and realization. And this comes from the Vedas. So we're talking over 5,000, possibly 10,000 years ago. So he says, similarly, the 4 statements of the Vedas are the university degrees of Jnana Yoga that you acquire when you finish your study of the subject. They are not sadhanas, right? They are the 4 degrees of the University of Jnana Yoga. To reach the level where you can acquire these degrees, the intellect which connects with the higher self, prajnatmika buddhi, must be trained. Your mind, which was operating through vyavasyatmika buddhi, must be retrained and re-educated to evolve on the path of Jnana Yoga. How can prajnatmika buddhi be trained? By mere contemplation? That's rubbish. If you go on thinking, I am divine, I am the self, I am the supreme soul, nothing will happen. If you keep on repeating, aham brahmasmi, at the same time are preoccupied with the affairs of the world, you will not realize that statement. Imagine saying that, I am God, I am God, I am God, but your head is fixated on Will Smith and Chris Rock and Joe Biden. If you keep on repeating aham brahmasmi and at the same time are preoccupied with the affairs of the world, Illuminati, 5G is gonna burn us up, the frogs are turning gay, right? Worried about all that stuff, but at the same time talking about I am God. Come on. You heard this before in Brother Panic's videos, right? He would talk about people saying I am God, I am all things, but at the same time, we gotta stop the government and we got to do this and we got to do that. No, pick one. Either you are God or you're a victim of your environment. Pick one. Because it cannot be both. They negate each other. So like he says here, if you keep on repeating aham brahmasmi, which translates to I am the higher consciousness, right? If you keep repeating I am the higher consciousness and at the same time are preoccupied with the affairs of the world, you will not realize that statement. I don't know why I didn't highlight that before, because that's a good one. On page 16. When there is no training, the worldly intelligence will always hamper your thinking. Repeat. When there is no training, the worldly intelligence will always hamper your thinking. When there is no training, the worldly intelligence will always hamper your thinking. How then will you progress? So even in a Jnana Yoga, there's need for training so that you can experience the luminosity of your prajnatmika buddhi. You need to go through a process of education so that at the end, you can acquire the degree of the Mahavakyas and emerge as a Jnana Yogi. This retraining and re-education of the mind does not begin with the scriptures, questioning, inquiry, or any mental or intellectual gymnastic. It begins in a very simple way, developing the ability to become the drashta, the witness of Buddhi. What do you think about that? How about that? Well, thus concludes chapter 1 of the book Jnana Yoga. self-awareness is predicated upon becoming a witness of the higher self in action. Not merely saying cool phrases, but understanding what is reality and what is not, based on observation. Not superstition, not belief, but observation. And not just any observation, are you able to observe reality without your prejudice? Without your prejudice. Are you strong enough to see the world as it is, not as you want to see it? I said strong enough because any weak mind can believe what it's already been given without question. But can you see reality as it is, not how you want it to be? Indicating a lack of control over the mental fluctuations. Don't do it. Your intelligence is dispersed because of the association with the senses and sense objects. Are you so attached to the outside world that it becomes difficult to see reality? Society Eject says that was a lot of meat in that chapter. Yes, sir. I agree. As he says here, Jnana Yoga literally means yoga of knowledge. And this is my favorite of the 8 branches so far. Buddhi, a special endowment. Buddhi translates to both intelligence and intellect, depending. All right. So that is that for the first chapter. We will resume the next chapter next week, in a few days. However, tomorrow, we're going to go ahead and head over to Gibara. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this, because, like I said, tomorrow we're going to read Gibara in the book A Practical Guide to Kabbalistic Symbolism. That's tomorrow. So again, like I said, like the video if you didn't like it already. We will keep going. And had to take a little break myself. But I think I'm about ready to get back to my routine and start posting memes and stuff again. So, again, like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. We Grow Natural says, great book. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. You stayed here the whole time, so I appreciate you. Aldiki says, awesome as always with these books. Yes, I love it. I love it. Matthew Watson says, thank you, Trav, for these lives. My pleasure. Thank you. Louis says, peace, mages. Peace, bro. Peace. Okie doke. Okie doke. All right, so meditate on that. Hopefully you've got the physical copy yourself, so you can look over what you may have highlighted or not. And like I said, I'd also recommend making a diagram like I displayed, and just contemplate that. Contemplate the different layers of yourself. The surface level, what lies right underneath, which is who you were all your life. And then another layer that indicates the childhood, another layer that indicates the family, maybe another layer that indicates the human race as a whole, which we also know as the demiurge, Yalda Bayoth, what everyone is so afraid of. And then right underneath that, we would have the angels in general. And I say in general because typically the angelic classes are not specific. They usually deal with just the group, whether it's the Chasmalim or the Seraphim or whatever, Ophanim. But they're typically not considered as individuals. But then we get to the archangel level, and those get a little bit more intense in their expression of an essence. And then you get to the God form level, and that represents the essence itself. But it's good to make that chart because also you can see your lineage, your connection to the God form, because you're not separate from it. You're not separate from what we call God. You're not separate from the angels. You're not separate from any of creation. But just like the intellect and the higher self and the lower self, you've got to come into an awareness of its existence, first and foremost. I mean, isn't that what quantum physics and science tell us? By simply observing something, we change the outcome of it, we change how it manifests. There's an occult principle to that. Because what do we learn about what's happening on the tree of life between Kether and Hakma? The vision of Hakma is a vision of God face to face. A vision of God face to face. God is looking at himself. Now, at least from mystical Kabbalah, ladder of lights, and a practical guide to Kabbalistic symbolism, that really looks like God is looking at his reflection, looking in a mirror, or as they say in those books, it's more like looking at a pond and seeing his reflection in the pond. And every time he sees it, it changes his awareness of it. Then he becomes aware of the change that he sees, and that reflection keeps on happening. It's as if as God changes, the reflection changes, and as the reflection changes, God changes, and it happens back and forth, back and forth. But see, what's going on at a lower level, because that's a level. The first level is God itself. The next level is a reflection of God face to face. The third level, the third level is what happens with all those different reflections. They create their own specific vibrations and they're collected into different patterns, different archetypes. Just for example, let's say God looked at himself in the reflection and saw himself smiling, and he had a feeling about that. That creates a smiling archetype. Let's say God looked at the reflection, he was angry, and that creates an angry archetype. He looks at himself and he gets turned on, and that creates a turned on archetype. So see all these different collections of responses of the vision of God face to face. That's what creates Bina. That creates the third Sephira on the tree. It's a collection, it's an aggregation of all the different patterns, of all the different reflections of the divine. All the reflections are present as a seed in Kether. They're all there. So God, as its pure self, has the potential to be happy, angry, turned on, sad, excited, depressed, bored. All that, the potential for all those things exist in Kether, but it's in Hakma that they begin to be expressed, one at a time. Time. That's why Hakma relates to the zodiac, time. So each of those 12 zodiac represents 12, a collection of 12 slices of potential expressions of God. And those potential expressions become more manifested and collected in the sphere of Bina. And that creates the upper triad. And that just keeps happening indefinitely. No error, no sin, no attachment. It's just God looking at himself and cataloging the reflections there. But then what happens is Doth. Now, Doth represents those reflections being played out, being actually expressed in concrete form. So Doth becomes a lower octave of Kether. Now, Kether is the seed of these expressions in potentiality, the seed of these expressions in their potential state. Doth represents that potential state expressed. So in a perfect universe, there's only four spheres: Kether, Hakma, Bina, Doth. But this isn't a perfect universe, at least not from this perspective. So we're experiencing the fall of God, or the fall of man, or the fall of the angel, whatever. That's Doth. being stretched out into time and space. So that expression of those reflections now become reality as we know it. It becomes our day-to-day life. So underneath all of our opinions, underneath the personality that we've gathered, underneath everything that we know that is life, underneath all that is a reflection of God face to face. And even underneath that is God itself existing. So when you look at this reality and the things that are happening in your day-to-day life, it's a reflection of God. And as you look at the reflection, it changes. As you look at it and interpret it, it changes. This is what Kabbalah describes. So Kabbalah isn't necessarily a magical system. It's a description of how reality already is. Samkhya isn't a system. It's a description of how reality already is. And when you begin to learn the system and operate according to the system, you can change things and harmonize things in the way that you see fit. So if you see something that you don't like, you don't demonize it and attack it and, oh, we gotta fight back, we gotta reclaim this, they stole it from us. No, that's ignorance. That's ignorance. So the way that you fix something like that is you fix your interpretation of it. Nobody stole shit from you specifically. It's not personal. None of this is personal. No matter how personal it feels, none of it's personal. But you'll figure it out. Keep studying. Keep studying. Caesar. Peace, bro. All right. Al Dicky. Good night. Good night. Amber D says, I'm still behind, but I just want to say I've been remembering so many childhood memories lately that I just can't believe I remember. Yeah, see, that happens when you really start taking this practice seriously. Because, like I said, those memories don't go anywhere. They're stored in your etheric body. They're literally stored in your etheric body. But just like the diagram that I showed, we store them at different levels of our existence. And depending on how deep you're able to penetrate, is how clearly you're able to perceive those memories and those experiences. If you're not able to penetrate deeply, what you get is you get an echo of that experience. So say I might not remember what happened to me at 5 years old, but I'm still affected by it because subconsciously I remember and I'm affected by it. But once you learn to still your mind and concentrate and not be swayed and thrown off, then you can start to go within and deal with those experiences. And when I say go within, that diagram is what I was talking about. Going within yourself. Going within means analyzing the surface level self, then analyzing the self that was before you knew who you were, then analyzing your childhood animal self, then analyzing the family, because how you were raised culturally, genetically, that's the foundation of who your current self is based on. Analyze that. That's not who you are, but that's how your essence expresses itself through the genetics, through the child, through the individual. That's not who you are, but that's how your essence is expressing itself. So it only helps to understand that expression. Yeah, 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 yeah. Society, because we're looking again, as above so below, we're looking at the yoga, the union between the macrocosm and the microcosm. We're looking at the relative versus the absolute. The absolute knows what it is. The relative thinks it's something different. The reflection thinks that it's something different from the observer. Remember in the chapter we just read, it was talking all about becoming the observer and not taking this stuff personally, becoming the observer. God knows the difference between itself and a reflection. The reflection believes in the difference between itself and God. Take old biddies. Take old biddies. Rainwater. Peace, peace. Ace says intro to Kabbalah video you shared in class, please. Okay, because I'm on my phone, I can't leave and copy the link. So like I said, if you can message me on Instagram, I will post it. Um yeah, I don't have it. I'll have to get it out of this chat is what I'm saying. Or maybe even if you make a comment on this video, I can post a response to your comment. That'll be easy. Black Knight says, can you show the diagram again, please? Man, I got to walk up out of this room to show you that diagram again. MC Maestro says, damn, Guru, why you say that? Now some scars popping up. Yeah, I know about them, some scars. Good past, good past. All right, Black Knight, check this out. You'll probably see this again in my next book once I finish it. But basically, it's talking about the levels of self-awareness, right? This is who I am, who I call myself. But it's founded upon who I was known as, the name I was given, the person that I was given to be. I didn't have much of a say in this level, but this is the level that I personally created, right? So you have a level of self that you created based on the childhood that you were given. Speaking of childhood, this was founded upon childhood experiences. Before you were aware, before you were self-aware, you were an animal human child, just doing what animal human children do. There's a level of awareness. These represent trance states. These represent states of awareness. And even if you're able, and like I said, most people don't get past this level because the childhood trauma is way too heavy. Way too heavy. Most people see it and they run from it. Or they see it and they're inspired to feel the pain and they don't get past it. This is why non-attachment is so important. Because in order to penetrate deep into these levels, you got to stop taking shit personally. Doesn't matter. It happened in the past, but it has no more effect on you. It has no more effect on you. No matter what happened in the past, it has no more effect on you. So to continue below that level, you've got the hereditary level. And this deals more, like I said, with the family, with the bloodline, and that kind of thing. And look, you can flesh this out however you want to. This is just arbitrary. I threw it together. It isn't fleshed out yet. But then below that, you got the species, and that's the morphogenic field. We're dealing with the Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, right? The vampire monster that everyone's so afraid of. But it's actually the egregore of the human race, which you are a part of, by the way. All of us are. And it is a part of the angels, which are a part of the archangels, which are an expression of the God form, the pure essence. And below this, we get to pretty much Kether or Shiva, or the unmanifest. But yeah, just something to consider. Alchemy Gold, peace, peace. All right, so that should be everything. Does anyone have any questions or comments or concerns before I head out? You're welcome. All right, well then otherwise, tomorrow I'll be back on here, same time, going over the chapter of Gibera on a practical guide to Kabbalistic symbolism by Gareth Knight. All right, So, as We Grow Natural says, have a safe night, everyone. Love yourself. Be easy, not sleazy. Look, it's been a hard week for a lot of people, not just myself. With all the solar flares and the Mercury retrogrades, or whatever excuse you want to give it. Who knows? But it's been a pretty difficult week unanimously. Don't beat yourself up. Pick yourself back up and keep going. There's even psychologically, there's no benefit in kicking yourself like, you should have done better. You're a piece of shit. You should have done this. You made a mistake. You're not going hard enough. That doesn't help. That doesn't help. If anything, that just makes you feel worse. Psychologically, they've proven this. If you slip, if you fall, if you don't do as good as you wanted to do, just pick yourself up and keep going. And even tell yourself, hey, you're still on the right track. You're doing just fine. You're not behind. You're going at your own pace. You're learning lessons that needed to be learned. It's just karma burning out. There's no point in beating yourself down, feeling negative. None of that stuff is even necessary. So don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just keep going. But yeah, come on. You know the deal. There's no room for fear, and there's no room for self-negativity. None of that shit. There's no room for it. Get that out of your system completely. That's what causes a blockage from going further in the practice. Like I said, the childhood traumas. Those are actually a result of the childhood traumas. Whose voice is that telling you you're a piece of shit? Whose voice is that telling you you're not doing good enough? Whose voice is that telling you you should have done better? Who's telling you that? Because you're not telling yourself that. That's a voice from childhood. Now, I don't know if it was a teacher, a parent, a grandparent, an auntie, an uncle, a friend. We don't know. Brother, sister. It could have been someone in your past that you were close to, and that's how they used to talk to you. But because they left so much of an imprint and an influence on your thought process, when you fall short, their words echo in your head. Cut that shit out. Cut it out. You know what I did to get rid of that voice? I would verbally speak the opposite. So when that voice would naturally come up, you're not doing it right. You're a failure. I knew you couldn't do it to begin with. You can't keep up. All that when that voice pops up, I verbally tell myself, you're perfect. You're on the right track. You're doing it exactly how it needs to be done. You're beautiful. You're strong. You're confident, right? You got this covered, man. There's no worries. You're doing a good job. That's what I tell myself verbally. So I can't even hear those negative thoughts. If you got to do that, then do it. Ain't no shame in it. Who cares? The point is the effect that it has on you. Does it lift your spirits back up? Does it help you maintain your frame? Does it allow you to keep going? All right. Enough pep talk. You got enough. You know what to do. It's a good night. But I'll see y'all tomorrow. For sure. Be safe. Be good to yourself. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. I love you guys. Peace.